ITA for making someone uncomfortable at the gym. For context, I, 19F, go to the gym regularly, and because of my job and school I have a very limited schedule, and I always go during the same hours, which works great because at this time the gym is almost empty. This Monday I noticed a new guy, 30s, maybe 40s. I don't usually pay attention to other people, but I saw him because he was in an area that I have to walk through in order to get to the treadmills. I choose my treadmill and start doing my thing. Not even 5 minutes later he started using the treadmill right next to mine, which wouldn't be weird, except all the other treadmills were empty, around 15. It made me a bit uncomfortable, but I ignored it, finished my hour and left. The next day, the exact same thing happens, but this time he greets me. I politely smiled and said hello back, finished my hour and left. Third day, he is doing other stuff. I arrive, he follows me to the treadmills, picks the one next to me and greets me. This time I said hello back, grabbed my stuff and changed the treadmills so I can be far from him. He stayed there for 5 to 10 minutes before going away. I thought that was the end, but then he came back with one of the employees. They asked me to remove my headphones and he started telling the employee that I was making him feel uncomfortable and unwelcome. I don't know what he told them, but I explained my side and the employee told him that people usually want space while working out. It went back and forth between them and the man left. The employee apologized for the inconvenience and left. Fourth day arrives, and when I get to the gym, that same employee greeted me and asked me if that was the only time I could go to the gym, explained that the man kept complaining about how rude I was and it could all be avoided if we picked different hours. I can't do that because this is the only free time I have. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but now I'm thinking that I should have told the man that I would appreciate space before changing treadmills and making things weird for everyone. Edit, I said this in a comment, but I'll add it here because it might be relevant. I did think he was a creep, but when the employee talked to me it made me second guess everything. He was very respectful and polite, the employee, but telling me that I should consider going in a different schedule made me think that I could have handled this differently and I was in the wrong. I'll ask to talk to a supervisor on Monday. Edit 2. A lot of people are telling me to go straight to corporate, but there's not a corporate. This isn't a huge chain gym, it's just a local gym in my somewhat small city in Colombia. Edit 3. Shout out to this lovely guy in my DMS. Verdict. Removed before verdict rendered. Top comments. Jonesy Raven. Are you fucking kidding me? A grown man is encroaching on a teenage girl's gym experience repeatedly and they ask her to change her visiting hours instead of telling creepy Crepeface to leave her alone. Fuck right off. NTA for sure. Badger of horrors. So let me get this straight. A man that I do not know is following me around and making me uncomfortable, and because I am not interested in making nice with him or flirting with him, I'm the bad guy for making him feel uncomfortable. Do you not see how this makes this gym look like a haven for sexual predators? NTA seek this guy's boss. Relevant comments. JRM 1102. NTA. This dude is a creep, you need to go above this employee's head. OOP. Thank you. I did think he was a creep, but when the employee talked to me it made me second guess everything. He was very respectful and polite, but telling me that I should consider going in a different schedule made me think that I could have handled this differently and I was in the wrong. I'll ask to talk to a supervisor on Monday. Perpleagluna. Op, NTA. Are there video cameras in the workout area? Because if this happens again, ask the employee to check the video. It should back up your statement and put the onus on the gym to deal with the creep. OOP. I'm pretty sure there are cameras. I didn't even consider that, but after reading the comments I'll ask a supervisor to check the footage. That should make things clear. The real KNR. NTA, but I swear this was posted 2 months ago. Only the girl complained about the creep and got him banned and screamed at her in the parking lot. Down to the same, but about the treadmill's confused face. OOP. Really? I think this is the second or third comment I get about a similar post. It's sad that it happens so often. Sad face. Jumping cat. It's unsurprisingly common, women-only gyms are becoming more popular because mixed gyms aren't safe at all. Update August 26, 2022. Hi, last post was removed and locked because I posted a screenshot not knowing I was breaking a rule, so here's the update. I called the gym the day after my post to ask when the owner would be there, so I went there on Monday knowing he would be there. He seemed nice. I explained the situation just how I explained it on my post and told him that we could check the cameras since that would show everything. When I described the man, he said that there was no need to do that. I have no idea how, but a lot of people in the comments of my original post guessed it. The creepy guy is friends with the owner, and not only that, but he is married and has children. The owner said that he didn't need to check the cameras because he's known him for more than 30 years. He know that he's a good man, and I must have misinterpreted the situation. I tried to stay firm and tell him that if he looks at the cameras he can see how everything I said is true. He replied something along the lines of, "These days you can't even look at the direction of a woman because only God knows what she'll accuse you of." I don't know if I translated that correctly, but you get the idea. I cancelled my membership there and I'm now going to a different gym. It's a bit smaller but is actually closer to my job, so it all worked out. Thank you for the support messages and for all the reassurance. Red heart. TLDR, creep was friends with the owner refused to do anything. I'm going to a new gym now. Am I the asshole here for letting my ex's mom into my book club and making his fiancé feel dumb? I, 28F, dated Jim, 29M, fake name, when I was 24. We separated when I was 25, and I haven't talked to him much after that. But I still sometimes speak to his parents, especially his mum, whom I have even introduced my FIL to, as they both love gardening. Now, I have been running a small book club from my uni days, with just a couple of lovely women, and we gather in my home library and talk about books on witchy or historical fiction. We also talk about gardening and old folk tales, and I just consider it a very fulfilling hobby. Jim's mum, let's call her Amy, asked me last month if she could join my book club, as my FIL had mentioned it to her when they were chatting at the nursery. She thought it sounded great, and I said yes, and I didn't think Jim would mind. Also, it wasn't his business. Amy then joined one session and gushed about it to her husband, who mentioned it to Jim. Now, the problem started there. I later learned that Jim's parents are not fond of his fiancée Beatrice, 30F. Jim's dad thinks Beatrice has nothing in common with their family. The three of them are huge readers, and thinks that Beatrice is shallow, as she works with makeup and clothes. She is a boutique buyer. Plus, the reason I interacted less with Jim and his parents following our breakup is that Jim dumped me for Beatrice, and even though I am married and they are somewhat friends with my FIL, Jim's parents think Beatrice is not right for their intellectual son. Apparently, at some family dinner, Jim's parents kept on speaking over Beatrice and mentioning how well I had been doing. Amy had been talking about what books the book club had recommended, and I guess Jim's dad had made a comment on how he wished he had a daughter to talk about books to, and that had hurt Beatrice. Jim later called me and told me about all of this. And that me letting his mum in my club has only given his parents more ammo to hurt Beatrice. I apologized, as I knew none of this. I later asked Amy to not talk about anything book club related outside. I made up a lie about how we pretend to be a coven and can't discuss these things with the outside world, even though it felt awkward and childish. I thought that would be it. Except, Beatrice and one of her friends have made scathing posts on Facebook and Instagram and even tagged my FIL in one of them, on how snobbish and mean-minded bookish women try to take other women's men because they can only read and act smart. Jim then again called me and said that Jim's mom had started a huge fight over it and she had taken back the jewelry she had given to Beatrice for the wedding. I was a bit shocked, as I rarely spoke to Jim after our breakup and only interacted with his parents when I ran into them. We live in a small town. But he sounded and acted like I was the reason his family was going through a spat. My husband and FIL are saying that Beatrice was lucky that I didn't think of retaliating and that I was not in the wrong. But I am starting to feel guilty and I need a second opinion. Edit. Many people are asking, so yes, Jim did sort of cheat on me with Beatrice. He admitted to having an emotional affair with Beatrice and dumped me. I later heard that his parents did not take it well. Update June 7, 2024. Well, not much has happened, but I thought I'd give an update. Firstly, to all the people telling me why I'd let my ex's mom into my book club, well, it has been 3 years. I hardly ever spoke to Jim and have no feelings about him or his life. He also seemed to feel the same way after the breakup, plus, it's a small town. His parents were also very nice to me, and because they share some of the same hobbies as my FIL, I have to interact sometimes with them when I run into them at the bookstore, nursery, or the restaurant my FIL runs. I honestly didn't think that Amy just asking to be in my club twice a month would make things awkward, as we wouldn't be interacting outside the book club or becoming friends. As for my husband, well, he is mad about how Jim's parents have used my club to take a dump on his fiancée, but he is madder about how Beatrice took a dig at me when she didn't even know the situation. I later apologized to FIL for dragging him into this, and he said that he had decided to end his friendship with Amy. I also decided to ask her to leave my book club, as this was not worth the drama she was bringing to my life. I called Jim up, told him blaming me for his family's behavior was not acceptable, and said I would not communicate with him further about this. I have been more than gracious, and honestly, some of the comments were right to ask me why I was still taking his calls. I guess I need a wake-up call to stop being polite to my ex and his family. Jim, surprisingly, apologized for blaming me and passed the phone to Beatrice. She surprised me more, as she started by apologizing to me for the posts, and admitted that was uncalled for. Also, I got my husband on board for the call too, and he asked her why she was taking digs at me, when she didn't even know me. Beatrice didn't reply to that, and Jim took over the phone and apologized to both of us. I then cut the call and blocked him. I also wanted to get this over with in one setting, so I called Amy and told her that it might be in her best interest to not come into my book club as it was causing problems in her family, albeit very politely. Sorry, the Asian in me cannot bring herself to be rude to elders no matter what. Amy took it in stride and admitted that dragging me into this was not acceptable. She said she would miss my friendship, but she understood if I didn't want to be dragged into her family affairs. She then started to rant about how shallow her son's choice of a woman was and whatnot and tried to explain the situation that happened, but I was done with it, so I excused myself and cut the call. FIL then told me that Beatrice had taken down the posts, but he was pissed, so my FIL had already made another post tagging Jim and his family, on how they didn't know how to keep it in the family and were certainly not as classy as they seemed to be if they were slandering other people on Facebook. Needless to say, it was a tiring evening. I guess that would be it. From what little I gathered from Amy's rants, Beatrice was insecure, as when they got together, most people in Jim's circle thought of her as the affair partner, and did not respect her. Plus, she was always self-conscious that Jim was more well-read than her, and I guess Amy mentioning me triggered some old insecurity in her. But then again, how is that my fault? I didn't know her then and I don't know her now. I am very happily married and I haven't really thought about them in these years, before all this drama. Hopefully, this is the end of it, so I won't be updating anymore.